You don't wanna see me in the street. Get down. Packing word instead of packing heat. I'm a soldier. Hey. Soldier. Hey. Soldier. Find me on the battlefield.
Welcome to the chopping block. Dr. Richie, the Chief. Glad to have you guys tune in again. This is going to be our final episode for this season about drugs, about the drug war, about addiction, about people, experiencing this opiate crisis, this dilemma we have in life, this pain, this disease. However you want to look at it, Dr. Richie and myself tonight want to give you some final tips, some final nuggets of gold wisdom that we've learned over the years. Once again, Dr. Richie's got 30 years doing this kind of work with every type of clientele. He's a LMFT, a licensed marriage family therapist.
Correct.
Myself, I'm a theological man, studied the good book, aka the Bible, for the last 40 years. So I'm into the study of Godology. And between the two of us, working with thousands amongst thousands of clients, residents, people who have been in in-house program, outpatient therapy, you name it, we've seen it all. The names change, but the game is the same. Wouldn't you agree, Dr. Richie?
That's right, bro. And even the whole thing of, theology and psychology, like you say a lot of time, all truth is God's truth. And we found out that there's a lot of concepts that are true and there's different terminology for it. So when we came together and started working together on a daily basis about 5 years ago, you kind of gave me some game on Christianese and I taught you a little bit of psychobabble. And it's just so radical to reinforce the truths that exist, even though it can be called different things. So that's what we want to impart with you guys,
Yeah, let's take it like this. Okay, good old marijuana. First off, those of you that have listened to earlier episodes, back in the 60s, I got busted for selling $10 worth of marijuana. My mom, the enabling mom that I had, love her. She was the greatest, but she loved her little boy a little bit too much. And she got me an attorney, and I got a plea bargain deal, 1 year in the county jail, and 3 years prison suspended sentence. And so I went in jail, a little pot-smoking marijuana head, and I came out a wannabe thug gangster, wanted to do every other kind of drug. So jail didn't work for me, and for most people, it doesn't work. And that's with marijuana.
But now, bro, in that story, I might be wrong, but didn't you get busted for like bunco sales? Wasn't it like not even real weed or something? Or at least in one of those cases?
Well, yeah, you're trying to imply that I was selling, some cheap weed. Yeah, it was pretty bunk, we call it seeds and stems. It wasn't anything special. But the point of it was, back in those days, there was a movie called Reefer Madness.
Yep. You
smoke marijuana, it'll make you go all crazy and all that. That's BS and all that kind of stuff like that. What I got is the munchies. I laughed a lot, all that kind of stuff. But I didn't realize, a lot of people was it a gateway? I don't know, gateway is being alive.
Man, bro, you bring up such an important topic because the marijuana issue is such a politically charged issue. We know the feds don't recognize it. In California, there's not only medical marijuana, it's also recreational. Like alcohol, if you're 21 or older, you can have an ounce or something like that and grow like a few trees. And it's a trip because I know a lot of the time I'm working with the people, your philosophy was pretty much no, like you wouldn't let people smoke weed, which really very few, if any, rehabs let you. But I know maybe because you got busted, you had to do all that time, or is it that you really don't feel that it's a good thing? I'm on the fence, and I know it can go either way. For me, it was a gateway, and I recommend to kids don't try weed. But I know some people who have anxiety, depressive disorders where the marijuana is actually medicinal. So it's kind of one of those weird things. Do you have a stance on that yourself?
Wow. A couple years ago, when my sciatic was bothering me, now that I'm over 40, it started bothering me. I went to the doctors, and the doctor told me to get a marijuana card. And because I have a very addictive personality, in other words, I go crazy, like, I'm addicted to cereal at 11 o'clock at night, so I'm a cereal killer. I got cornflakes, Rice Krispies, Fruit Loops, whatever. I got to have it. I'm that type of personality, so I told the doctor, I don't want to really be smoking weed every day. I'll be having a hookah pipe next thing, having a little drum beat circle going on, I'll go hippie again quick. But basically, my thing is especially in treatment centers like we work at, in the type of setting we work at, at Bible studies, marijuana, it's not really necessary. I don't think it'll help. I know that there's There's strains of marijuana that can help you things. And I guess I'll be real honest with everybody. If I'm hurting real bad and a doctor tells me that, this could take away some pain, at this stage of life, maybe I might smoke just a little pin roll at least. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's like I remember you did have some surgical things happen a year or so ago, or two maybe, and you were prescribed Vicodin, or maybe you had a surgery or something, but you were very mellow with it, and you knew that, hey, it could really, 1 could turn to 3 real quick, and you were taking like half, so you were very conscious of it. And I think that's part of it, of really being conscious of yourself and how you are. We have addictive personalities. I vape, now I haven't smoked cigarettes in a long time, and I'm happy about it. This might kill me quicker, but it's guilt-free. So no one's ever going to arrive and be perfectly balanced, but we're trying to make progress at it. And so the thing is, I'm with you too, is like I choose not to smoke marijuana. I've never smoked it since it's been legal. I smoked it from age 11 to 31, but now it's just like something I don't need, but I'm not against it because I do know some clients I work with have really benefited from it, and CBD. So the thing is, we can see both sides of a lot of different issues, and we'll let you know our bias. We'll let you know both sides. And that's just a really difficult issue because it's really politically charged. But I thank you for speaking on that for a minute.
Yeah. Marijuana is one of those things that battle's going to go on forever. It's going to be like the gun battle, who can have a gun. I mean, certain things. But let's talk about just our lives, serious life. Maybe you're that person that's tuning in right now, and you've got a drug problem. Maybe it's your dad, your mom, your brother, your friend, somebody at work. Let's bring it all down home here like that. So we know marijuana could go either way. Yeah. I'm not into it. Like I says, I recommend people don't smoke marijuana. But like I says, I'm worried about the other drugs that come along with it. Whether it's a gateway or not, I don't know. Maybe milk is a gateway drug. I do not know that. I don't have all the answers to that. But I recommend and I suggest to people, hey, you know what? If you can keep away from smoking any marijuana, please do. But the clients that we deal with, very rarely do we have anybody who calls up and says, listen, I need to check into treatment. I need detox. I need rehab because I smoke too much marijuana. I think we had one that I recall in our last 5 years. And that was a strip. And it's like people will minimize it, but he felt he was dependent. And the thing is about addiction is it might to somebody else not be that big of an issue. But if you find that you're dependent upon it and it's getting in the way of your life, then it's problematic by that definition. So, but I know Chief and I, we're focused on the real hard drugs because we're losing lives. People are dying, and then it's a wrap then. You can't do anything. We get one chance down here. So our main thing is keeping people alive, and so we're trying to keep people off the needle and heroin and all that kind of stuff. Because with marijuana, a lot of people tell me, I don't do anything wrong when I smoke marijuana, and I go, basically, I never see you do anything. People turn a little stonerish, and get a little, hey, and all that kind of stuff. But, okay, so what are the other kind of drugs that we deal with? What kind of addictions usually come our way?
I think the biggest one for us has been heroin, man. The heroin resurgence, it's a pandemic issue. We're losing a lot of young adults, 24, 25 years, that come up from good families that have a lot of potential in life. And just because the therapeutic dose, the amount that gets you high, and the lethal dose, the amount that'll kill you, there's a very thin threshold. And it's so crazy that sometimes we've seen this where dealers will put in fentanyl in a few of them, like a synthetic, like fentanyl is like China White. And then the people who get that, they'll OD, sometimes die, sometimes not. And then everybody wants to flock to that dope because that's the good shit or whatever. And it's just tragic. So, man, heroin I think is the number one. Of course, we got people mixing it with every different thing. And so, but I feel that's the number one problem right now that we've been dealing with. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, well, I can remember years ago, because we've been doing this for a long time. Years ago, I can remember that when they started with this oxycodone, oxycontins, oxys, all that kind of stuff, that they said there would only be like a minute 0.25% of people that would actually enjoy that type of feeling and become addicted. They were so wrong, Sport injuries of every sort. They give you oxys, Norcos, Percocet, Vicodin. All of these, just call it like this. Every one of those are opiates. Let's call them all the baby heroin. Yep. Mama heroin, daddy heroin, grandpa heroin. They're all in the same family. Every opiate like that. And the percentage of people, like I was sharing in an episode before, a mom was giving her son, 11-year-old son, some cough syrup at nighttime. And a couple days, she gave the cough syrup, and she goes, how do you feel, son? Oh, I feel better, but I'd like some more. Oh, do you feel better, but you like some more? You go, I like the feeling it gets. You see,
Yeah.
I don't want to get anybody going right now, but if you've never shot heroin, you know, for some of us on planet Earth, we have that gene, we have that DNA, we have that curse, whatever you want to call it. But the first time we shoot that heroin into our veins or even smoke that heroin, it has a feeling second to none for the person that...
Even if you puke, what sets in afterwards, and you think, why would somebody do something, puke, and then do it again? And really, it's like heroin has this big mystique around it, like it's a heavy drug. And like Chief's talking about, the baby heroin of the oxys, whatever, it sounds better. So we got so many kids that are like, told themselves, I'll never use heroin, I'll never shoot heroin. Oh, but these pills, and it's at raves and whatever, and it's high school, and it's whatever with the friends, and it's no big deal. But they start taking them, and then one day they notice they got like a real bad cold or flu, and they're like, man, I'm sick. And their homie's like, I think you're strung out. Like, what? What are you talking about? No, I'm sick, man. He goes, well, take one of these. And then 15 minutes, like, I'm better. Oh, shoot. And that's, like I said before, is sometimes people are like, well, how could someone be a heroin addict? It will start out, we've had people that are not into street drugs. They have a sports injury. They get surgery. They're on medication. They like the feeling. Maybe they don't even really know it at first. And then it ends up turning into heroin. 75% of heroin addicts started with pharmaceuticals. So it's just a real slippery slope, man. And a lot of people get blindsided because they're not knowledgeable. They don't know. And so that's just the main thing that we're tripping out on. But what happens is that mystique of heroin is such a bad thing. When you get to that point and the doctor got busted, or they're out of the pills, or you can't get them no more, or whatever the case is, and then someone else will be like, hey, have this, it's the same thing, but it's cheaper. And then maybe they'll smoke it and they'll realize after a minute, this is a waste, and they go to the needle. And that's when the real danger begins, man. And next thing they know, something they said they'd never do, they look back, they had already crossed that line. They're doing it, they're strung out, they're a junkie, they're a dope fiend, man. And it gets treacherous.
Yeah, maybe there's somebody there watching right now, and you're like I was. I said I would never do heroin. I tried cocaine, I'll do this, never do heroin. And then I found out, somebody asked, let's just try it one time.
No such thing.
Like I said, I don't know the percentage on every human being, but there is a percentage, more than 1% of the human beings in the United States of America, when they get a taste for that opiate, they like it and they want more, because all of a sudden it takes away all of your problems, temporarily, I might add.
That's right.
And those problems will become bigger problems. Like I've said many times before, people told me it's like having a monkey on your back. No, King Kong on your back and all of his family. And so here, what do we do with this? Like I said, heroin's all over the place now. It's in the high-class high schools. It's in middle-class high schools, middle schools. How do we deal with that? First off, like I said, of course, it's easy to just say no. This week they had the RED program, Say No to Drug program, at all the elementary schools in my neighborhood. And everything's good, but there's still going to be some people caught up in that trap that are going to try it. We can blame it on parents. There's a lot of absentee fathers nowadays. Mothers are out hard working. We can blame it on Mexico. We can blame it on China or the Middle East. We can blame shifting, but I've never seen blame shifting ever solve one problem. So we've got all these kids on heroin. What other drugs are we dealing with on a regular basis?
Methamphetamine's a real big one.
Tell us what are the effects of that? What does that do to somebody?
That is like, it's in the stimulant category, like cocaine, but it lasts longer, and it's one of those things that's insidious. We'll have regular housewives maybe end up getting turned on by a friend or whatever, and now she can like vacuum and clean the house better and get it quicker, and she has energy and she can deal with the kids. And it's so subtle because after a while it's an everyday thing. And we're talking about beautiful, regular, normal, educated, upper middle class housewives ending up toothless in the streets, losing their kids, losing their houses, losing their relationships, losing their dignity, selling stuff for it, becoming bag people, for lack of a better term. And it just gets tragic, man. It can take them. And like you said, it's not every single person, but it's a high percentage that get caught up into it.
And what's the substitute when you go to a doctor and you need this extra energy? What kind of drugs do they give you?
Well, we were talking with someone else before with the ADHD diagnosis, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which has been diagnosed much more frequently in the modern era. And that's where kids are bouncing all over the place, and adults get it too. But instead of a normal person who's given a stimulant who will then kind of be bouncing, it calms them and it helps them focus. And that's kind of the litmus test if they have that condition. But what happens, a lot of these younger people are on it, and it kind of gives them a taste. It makes them feel better. And that sometimes turns into using methamphetamine. It's also narcolepsy and a few other disorders, and it's actually amphetamine, but it's pharmaceutical, so it seems okay because it's from the doctor.
So we get it from the doctor, we think it's all right. No, usually we get it from the doctor, it's pure. I mean, it's really pure.
Yeah.
So all of us know, and the whole world knows now, that we got drug problems everywhere, and we can keep an eye on our kids, put a low jack on them everywhere they go. Not going to stop it. Kids do experiment. We can't keep an eye on our kids every minute. In jails, in prisons, they get drugs in there. It's happening everywhere. So let's close this show up with 3 or 4 solutions, okay? 3 or 4 solutions. If you called Dr. Richie or myself today, I'm going to have Dr. Richie go first and share whatever the call might be, an illustration of a call, and what you would, in your position as a therapist, what you could possibly recommend or suggest they do with someone like that.
Thank you. There's so many different layers of it. There's the substance dependence, which, first of all, for somebody to really get off drugs, they have to be motivated. There's this expression that when the pain of staying the same is greater than the fear of change. So when you've bumped your head so many times and super hard and kicked up a bunch of dust, but it still works for you, it still makes you feel good, usually people continue. But something happens to where it doesn't feel good anymore. You realize you're using it just to stay normal, and so many problems are coming. At some point, there's a precipitating factor where someone's motivated to get it together. That's excellent because that increases the probability. And at that point, someone wants to go to a detox, because if you have a heroin dependence, you can't just stop. It's not realistic. If the person stops, they're going to get the worst flu they ever had. And they know a little tiny something can make them perfect and normal and not care again. So you've got to be in a controlled environment and medically detox. If we're talking about benzodiazepines or alcohol and other things, there's the chance of having seizures and all that kind of stuff. So you want to do it in an environment where you're being medically detoxed and titrated down with different drugs that a prescribing physician does. And you're in a controlled environment. So that can be 3 days to potentially 30 days, like if it's Suboxone or something like that, that has a real long half-life. And after that, then there's so many different issues. There's the psychological issues. So when you go into a residential program, which is where you live there, and we've run those before, you want to be in therapy, you want to learn life skills, you want to have constructive use of leisure time. You'd always take people to the beach, take them out and realize you can live clean and sober and still have fun. Socializing with other people. Usually we hang around what's called lower companions, people who get high. So it's really hard to try to not be getting high and hanging out with people who have dope and are getting high. So you want to develop relationships with people that you could relate to, that are similarly minded, maybe have the same problems, but they're on that same pathway of trying to get their life together. And that's a good thing about programs. That's a good thing about Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, over 200 different 12-step fellowships. A lot of times there's legal problems at that point. So you've got to clean up the wreckage of your past and get some support to deal with that legal stuff. There might be housing issues. You've got to get housing. There might be education, occupational. There's so many different layers. So really it depends on the individual and how far it's gotten and what kind of problems. No way. Dude, that's a total violation, dude. And this was totally supposed to be off. Man, this is insane. I want to apologize. But hey, so there's a constellation, and it depends on the very specifics. A lot of times we're getting calls from moms, and they're saying, little Charlie has this problem, this, that, and the other. But if Charlie isn't down for it, it's going to be a rough road. Now, it doesn't mean don't send them to treatment. There's people who are mandated to treatment through the criminal justice system or the Department of Children and Family Services or the family courts. And basically, like we had talking about before, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make them drink. But our job in that situation is to get them thirsty. And we try to do that, and you can't beat them over the head with, hey, you got to stop and just say no. It's really more of what they call motivational interviewing techniques. So you let them talk about how great it is and glorifying and until the wheels fall off and all that kind of stuff. But then after a little while, hey, has there been any downsides? Well, yeah, I did get busted, and yeah, my mom doesn't trust me, and this, that, and the other. And just start focusing a little bit on that. They're going to do what they're going to do. We don't bark at people. We don't really lecture on them. We'll share our experience, strength, and hope, and hopefully they can identify and learn something from us, because addicts are oppositional, bro. And if you say, hey, don't touch this finger, before where they weren't even looking at it or thinking about it, and now all they want to do is touch it. So sometimes we use what's called paradoxical interventions, and that would be if one dude doesn't want to participate, I'll be like, hey, you know what, if you could just kind of kick back today and take it in and not be so vocal, that'd be cool. And then now he wants to participate, you know what I'm saying? Or you know how it is. So it's just a trip, brother. And we've been doing that for a long time. Plus, people that we work with know that we know this, we've lived it, and we're not trying to bark at nobody. So we've been fortunate to have good relationships and good success rates, you know. The other last thing I want to say before we go to you, even though you're not supposed to smoke marijuana in a program, I know there's been times where a client will smoke marijuana, and instead of getting kicked out and being super punitive, you'll give them some chances if they come clean on it, whatever, because you know there is no perfection. It's a process, and we're going to make some mistakes along the way. And if you throw them out, sometimes they're trying to get you to throw them out to say, see, nobody loves me, nobody cares, because we don't care about ourselves. We don't feel we're worthy. We don't feel we're lovable. So it's loving them until they can love themselves. And you do that. You take people into your home, into the programs where most people won't. And then it's getting spiritually connected to your higher power, power greater than yourself, that positive pathway, God, Jesus Christ. It's going to be different for different people, and different people have their own timing on it. So we can't push that either. And that's the great thing. You never proselytized me, you never pushed it, but you educated, you showed me how you were living, and that was attractive. So it's about attraction rather than promotion.
There you go.
You know, so that's my little blurb on it. You know?
Wow, Dr. Richie really covered it all like that. The only thing I'd probably add to that is one of the few of the things that Dr. Richie pointed out. I like to let the clients know by my behavior, by my actions, that I care. That's the most important thing I can do for somebody, is I care about their lives. The good book says those that have been forgiven much, love much. So I've been forgiven so much scandalous stuff I've done in my life, and I was a hope-to-die dope fiend heroin addict, so I understand all that type of stuff. So I'm not shocked, excited, or think, oh, I can't believe you did that. I'm used to hearing every story under the sun. So when people call my number, when people meet me, when they come to my 12-step group, when they come to my Bible study, when they come to hear me talk in an audience, when they want a one-on-one, the first thing I try to project to them, like I said, is first off, I care. What can we do to help you? And like Dr. Richie pointed out, you know, it depends where people are at. That's why there has to be some type of interview. It's nice for a mom to call for their son, or a wife to call for her husband, but it's got to be the person personally that needs the help, that reaches out, says, please, I need help. We've got to really be sick and tired of being sick and tired. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that try to help other people, but that other person just isn't ready at this time. I look at it, for doing this for 40 years now, over 100,000 people coming through our detox ranches, coming through our sober living homes, coming through our ministries and everything like that. Boy, I've just today, another lady, I was at Irvine Park at the Orange County Zoo, and a group of business people were there, and one lady walks up to me and she goes, hey, aren't you Pastor Phil Aguilar? And I go, yes, I am. She goes, I gave my life to God at your church. I used to be into drugs, and now I'm a counselor for the county. I hear that testimony on a daily basis almost, or on Facebook, somebody thanking me because I was able to touch their life in a positive way. Yeah. And the great majority of the people I work with are people with alcohol, drug problems, you know, issues like that. So first off, that's the important part. Find somebody who you believe cares about you or your family, okay? Secondly, what are you going to do for them? It's easy to tell a parent or a loved one, hey, just kick them out of your house, put them out on the street. It's easy to say, but let me tell you, when you love somebody, you can call it false love, denial love, enabling love, whatever. But like I said, it's not easy to put somebody out on the streets. But some kind of help has to be enlisted. Going to the higher power, going to Jesus, to prayer, doing something, finding somebody. Once again, there is somebody located in your neighborhood, your city, somewhere around you or near your phone that you can call and get some help. Once you have somebody that you know cares, really gives a rip about your family member or friend, Then they can have a little interview, and then the options are there. Some people don't have any money, so we have places that we can refer people to. I have friends that take people in, and it's rough when you do a non-medical detox, because kicking cold turkey can be super dangerous to their health. Kicking cold turkey is the last thing anybody wants to do is feel any pain.
A lot of discomfort.
And there's liquor stores everywhere, and there's drug dealers everywhere, on every corner, on every city of every town in America. And so that's it's a difficult one, but I do have those people that we get them into a place where they do a cold turkey. It's hard, but it's beneficial if they can do it. It's tough, and there are places like that, so they're there. Then in different counties, they have county beds, places, but there's a waiting list. It's not easy to get into a place anymore, you know?
Got a call like every morning at 11 or whatever, and it could be calling for a few months. And then when they say, okay, we got a bed, come now, there's no like, well, I got to go do this and that. And that's common. It's like, you got to go right then and to get it. And it's a blessing when that happens. One of the things you mentioned, we did have someone that came through our program a long time ago that has been very successful, who was a heroin addict and did it cold turkey. I think you know who I'm talking about, but for confidentiality, we can't. But this woman, she ended up really having a lot of success that way, and feels that doing it that way contributed to it because there was so much pain.
Yeah.
I remember one day I was working with someone, and I'm in the room telling them, hey, it's not your fault, and because they had heard voices and all that. But then you're like, well, hey, I'm letting them off the hook and feel that pain, because this is going to be the incentive not to use again, because you're going to be back in the same situation.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, you know, what happens all the time, you know, is eventually every addict picks up a drug case or theft or some kind of under the influence, and so now you're dealing with the courts, or they get a DUI. Dr. Richie and I deal with all of that every day. We're going to give you our numbers to call, because we just might be able to help. You know, there's no guarantees on this, because what I've seen is I was 29 before I finally, you know, kicked heroin and changed my life, my whole lifestyle. And so when kids are young, it's rough already. But finding some people that they can relate to, that you know, you have addiction here, addicted to drugs, and then you have connection over here. Everybody wants to be connected, whether it's a bowling league or a volleyball team or a gang or a crew or just a community, a church, whatever it is. People want to be connected, and that's why in our community, that's why AA has a community, the NA program has a community, and the Bible people like myself, we have a community hanging around with other believers, because nobody can do this alone. We got to get there together. So if it isn't Dr. Richie or myself that you call, we can take any calls and deal with any personal issue you or your family member might have. We're located in Orange County, but we deal with people all across the United States of America. And we know a place close to you that if you might need help, I mean, we're here for you. Just to answer any questions. We're not in it for money. We're not in it for fame. We're in it to help people, to save lives, because this is a matter of life and death.
It truly
it's no
is a
joke
matter
anymore.
of life and death, man. And when you're going to these funerals of these young kids, man, and these parents, these families, these loved ones, it's really gut-wrenching, man. And it's tough the first few times you go through it. I want to highlight something that you said. There's a few things, that it's an inside job, and that it's not just physiologically getting the drugs out of your system. You know, there's this like rapid detox thing where they can be under anesthesia and be detoxed while you're asleep, and you wake up and your body is completely free of any opiates or whatever it is that you're strung out on. And so your body doesn't need it just as much as someone who's never done it. But as you know, the first place they go is dope, man. You know, why? Because the physical or medical part of the condition has been addressed, but the psychological hasn't.
Lifestyle,
You still got that dope fiend mentality. You still, you know, and so there's the biological, psychological, social, and there's spiritual factors, you know. And this is just an old school, I'm not a good artist, so it's not the pimped out, you know, high tech, whatever. But Chief was talking about this. Everybody wants to belong to something bigger than themselves, a family, whatever. So that's the social. And like I mentioned, if you're hanging around with lower companions, how are you not going to use? So you get with people who are on the same pathway, who support you. You hurt people, hurt other people. So you want to be in a situation where you're not being abused, you're not abusing nobody, but nobody's perfect. So in these programs where Chief is, I mean, it's a lot of fun, but sometimes, you know, you get serious too, people bump heads, and you work through that conflict. The other thing is, you had mentioned this one of our other episodes. Every addict has experienced some deep pain.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, and we just want to cover it up. And the heroin just takes it away. Like, you don't care. Someone could be like, when you do heroin, you do a shot of heroin, someone could be like, hey, it's World War III, Korea, shot the missile, and it's a wrap. And you'd be like, well, it was a good run, F it,
Yeah.
You just don't care. It's cool. Hey, your mom died. Well, hey, she was a good woman, It's like, dude. And so how do you get from just being cool with whatever to having to deal with life on life's terms? It's a tough transition. I want to tell a brief story, if you don't mind, of someone that you know very well. It's part of your family, and someone that I know and respect. I'm not going to say any names, but he, was just living life, whatever, good at sports, this, that, and the other, and was working at this job that his dad had hooked him up with. And one day he didn't want to go to work, and he talked to the boss about going to a party, and his dad's like, hey, are you going to work? And he's like, no, I'm going to this party. And his dad's like, well, hey, did you talk to Jerry or whatever? He's like, well, yeah, I told him. He's like, this morning. He's like, we don't get down like that. You go to work. And he's like, Dad, I want you go to work. I hate you, Dad. Just angry, And then so he went to work, and then later in the day got a call from a family member. It's like, hey, you got to get home. Dad's, something's going on. He's like, well, hey, when I close up, he's like, no, get home now. So boom, goes home. His dad's being brought out on a gurney, and is he going to be okay? Are you going to save him? Hey, we're going to do our best. But this brother did not get a last 30 seconds, minute, 5 minutes to say, Dad, I don't hate you. I love you. And that guilt, that pain, he was in the spoon, and you were the one person, you never gave up on him. You loved him, even though he was a hard dude to love. Sometimes he didn't love himself. He's a very intelligent dude. He thought the Bible was BS, so he got into it to prove that it was BS, and on the other side got converted and realized it couldn't be. And he's a powerful, been an influence on me. Nobody's perfect, but that's a powerful story, because that type of guilt and pain, we're all going to go through something, and it's really hard to stop when you've got some demons, and we've all got something, bro. So that was just something I wanted to hit on.
Yeah, there is a lot of pain, and people are looking for love in all the wrong places. So like I said, if it's you or a loved one hey, we're just a couple of rascals here who are offering our help, but find somebody that cares, somebody that can talk into your life and be willing to help you find a place to go. If you're a family member and you think you can offer your son or brother or friend money or a new car or a new boat, we've seen it all happen. People try to, hey, drugs look a lot more enticing, a slam with heroin, a pipe filled with this type of methadone or something like that. It's unreal how it works, but that's the sickness in a person that's addicted to drugs, narcotics, alcohol.
Yeah.
They don't see anything but that. So the urgency is so important. It's now. Call somebody tonight. Go visit somebody tomorrow. You could save a life, because we watch these kids crying over their brothers, their dads, people going to prison. And we never think it's going to happen to us, but believe me, it's happening all over the streets.
And the thing is that, everybody's responsible for themselves, but if you don't know what it's like, it's really easy to be like, well, hey, just snap out of it or pick yourself up. Like, when drug addicts are caught up in their addiction, they're not trying to hurt nobody. They just want to feel okay 1 second at a time. And when you discontinue the use, when some time goes by, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever, you start feeling panic, discomfort, and then terror. And you're going to do whatever it takes to get that thing. And family, you'll steal from family members, whatever the case is, and do things you thought you had never done. And it's like, well, why is he doing? You can't help it, in a sense. Now, usually what happens is you don't stop till you break out in handcuffs. There has to be an intervention. And like, hey, that's what helped get you clean when you went to the joint that final time. And so it's just one of those tough things. So if you're a family member, they're not doing it to hurt you or to piss you off, even though it's frustrating and it's sad to see someone hurting themselves like that. They're caught up. They've got a disease. It doesn't absolve them of responsibility for their behavior. And once they can get detoxed, it's on them to not pick up and use. I was in detox many years ago, and I was in there for a while because I had a huge habit. And then these alcoholics would come in looking tore up, bro. I mean, badder than bad on their deathbed. And in just 3 days with some Ativan, they'd get detoxed, and so they wouldn't have seizures or DTs or whatever. And then they'd send them back out, but they didn't have the knowledge of the disease of addiction. And so then they'd come back in a few days, just toe up, really looking bad. And I'm like, what happened, dude? well, man, I had to take some meds and there was a bottle of vodka, and so boom, and next thing I know, I'm at the bar, and it's like, but you didn't know you can't have one? Because the phenomenon of craving, from the disease model perspective, if you're a real addict or real alcoholic, whatever that thing is, once you take one, it's a wrap. One is too many, 1,000 is never enough. So once you get clean and you learn about it, you can't take that one because there's always two, you know? And so that's just a little piece of information, because sometimes families meaning well, somebody will go to rehab and they'll come back, hey, you want a beer, Johnny? And it's like, you're just trying to be cool. Well, just one beer, but Johnny can't have one beer.
That's right. No way. No way.
Beer turns to dope quick. So just let them do their thing, you know, try to not offer stuff like that, because you can have a beer and you're not an alcoholic. Everybody's different, you know. So I just wanted to put that one in, Chief. And thank you again for this. The Chopping Block, Dr. Richie, the Chief.
Thank you for tuning in. And we'll put our phone numbers up there. Give us a call. Hey, 24/7, my number. Give a call, leave a message there. If I don't answer, I'll get back at you. And we'll just offer any kind of help that we can, because we care about you. Dr. Richie?
I'll probably get back to you within 3 to 5 days. Just joking. But I have like a track record of not getting back as quick. But shoot me a text. I don't listen to voicemail messages, but Chief's the man. He usually will send on me if you need a court report, if you need a psych, you know, that type of trip. Chief's the man. And, you know, like he said, it's not about going to our programs or whatever. It's just getting help. So we'll answer a few questions, shoot you in the other direction if you need it. You know, we just want you to not die.
Hey.
Thank you.
Dr. Richie and the Chief. Go to heaven.
It's all yours, Lord, everything that I have, Lord. I know it ain't much, Lord, but take all of me.